Hey guys, welcome to another video. In today's video we're gonna be doing a lobby intermission, as in you can join a lobby after 15 seconds. It's gonna teleport you to a map. You can also alter this to teleport you to a different server, but for this video we're just gonna be teleporting you to a different location in the same server. So let's get started. We should start out with our preparation, which will be actually building some basic models. So I guess we can start off with our parts. I'm just gonna make this little box right here. This is gonna be my join pad. So once you touch this, this will be, I'm gonna actually group this, and I'm just gonna name this teleport, or let's just say lobby 1. I'm gonna name this part gate, or yeah, let's just name that gate. So we'll have this part. Now we can add a billboard GUI to, let's say, display our time, or our time wait, or how long we have to wait for, the amount of players that's joined the lobby, and if it's ready. So let's just check out adding a billboard GUI straight into here. Ooh, it's a bit off, but we'll fix it up. So I'm just gonna add a UI padding. Let's just make this UI padding, let's say, I'm just gonna guess 0.10. Just gonna copy and put that everywhere. In this billboard GUI, let's make the size, check this, to 0. So if you don't want it to scale out so big like this, you can go to your billboard GUI and change the size to just mess around. Try 5, try 8. Sure, let's do 8 because we're gonna make it tall. So let's do 8 by 8. Quite the big size. Let's go to our frame and let's make our frame size 1,0, 1,0, so it takes up the entire space of the billboard GUI. Now on our studs offset, let's change our Y. This is how high it's gonna be off the ground. That seems to be about right. Now in our frame, we can add some text labels. I'll add 3 text labels because why not? And let's see if we can lower this by 1 or 2. Actually, let me real quick make this frame no longer visible. Actually, let's just change the transparency of it to 1. So you can still see it, it's just gonna be a little bit hidden. Let's try -1, let's just try 1. 1 is a bit much, let's try 0.5 or 0.1. Alright, 0.3 seems to be pretty good. Now I'm gonna take the size of all of these, I'm gonna make the size the x1 on the scale, and let's just say 0.5 or 0.2 on the X, and let's just make these text scaled. Let's actually select our last one, change its position and its Y to about -4 or -1, or just 1 actually. Or we're gonna do this, try 6. Alright, so we've got the labels for our intermission place. So we're just going to have one, this one's gonna be our status, or actually let's put that as the bottom one. The status is pretty much like if the teleporter is ready for more people to join, if it's currently teleporting people right now. And then let's make this text at the top be players. So this is going to display this many players out of however many players you want the limit to be. And then let's just name this time. So this is just going to be how much time remaining until the people get teleported. So I'm just going to make the background like this. Make some changes. You can design this however you'd like. I'm just going to make this say ready. Make it green because green is nice. Make the time just say, let's say 15-second delay. And let's say the players, let's say our maximum players is gonna be 5. so we can have a limit of 5 people in each lobby. So now that we have all of this, I'm just gonna add a quick stroke so it's easier to see. Now that we have our basic UI completed, we can go ahead and insert a part. This part is where you want the player to be teleported to. So let's say I have my map over here, like just this little plot of like grass or something, and I want the player to be teleported over here. Insert a part where you want the player to be teleported to, put it up in the sky, make sure it's not touching the ground because it might bug out. Make sure it's anchored. You can change its transparency to 1 because the player doesn't actually have to see that. And we can rename the part to, let's say, map TP. So we'll teleport the player to this part. Make sure can collide is also off so player doesn't bug out. So the player is going to be teleporting over here. Now with this over here in our lobby, we can actually add in a zone. So let's put in another part. Let's take this part and I'm gonna actually put this inside of the gates. I'm putting the billboard GUI inside of the gates. I'm gonna take this part, I'm gonna put it over here. This is where the player is gonna teleport once they join the lobby. So this is like a little seating area or whatever you'd like it to be. I'll just name this, like, we can just keep it as waiting room. So this is pretty much the waiting room, or where the player is gonna wait. You can just like add a barrier around this so the player can't leave, but I'm not gonna be doing that. Let's just rename this to, instead of that, we're just gonna do, actually yeah, just keep it waiting room. It shouldn't make that big of a difference. So now we've got our waiting room and we've got our little entrance way. So let's begin some of the scripting. To begin with, in replicated storage, let's just hit the plus and insert a remote event. This remote event is going to handle like leaving. So let's say you don't want to be in that lobby anymore, you can hit a button and leave, and we're going to use this to teleport the player as well. So this remote event, we can just rename it to leave event. So whenever the player leaves, we're going to fire that event. So in starter pack, let's get started with our gates, then we'll continue on. So in lobby 1, hit the plus and let's insert a script. I'm just gonna name this gate script. This script's gonna be in charge of handling what happens when our gate is touched. So let's start off by getting teleport service. Actually, get teleport service if you want to teleport the player to a different game. If you don't, let's just get tween service because it could add some nice effects. Let's just get local tween service. We're just making a variable called tween service, getting a service in the game that's called tween service. Now if you want, you can make a local place ID variable that can also help you to teleport the player, but I won't be doing that. So let's instead name this leave GUI event, because this is really just going to be changing the UI and stuff. It will handle the player a little bit, we're just going to keep it that way though. So let's make a variable for it. Local leave GUI event equals game.replicated-storage.leave GUI event. So we're making a variable for a GUI event that's in replicated storage. Now let's real quick just make a list. Lists are good so we can just store things in it. So let's get our billboard. Local billboard equals script.parent.gate.billboard GUI. So we can get our billboard GUI. Let's make a variable called timer. This variable is going to contain the timer, or how long the player has to wait to be teleported. Local teleporting equals false. This variable is in charge of checking if the zone or the gate is already being used and if it's already teleporting a group of people. So we can check if it isn't, then we can allow more people to join, but if it is, we should prevent people from joining. So then we can do a local spawn. Let's name, or actually spawn, let's just name a spawn part equals, let's just name it script.parent.waiting room. We're just gonna get the waiting room for that. Actually, we might actually change this location differently. So let's start off with a function to update the GUI on the billboards. So local function update GUI. So here we're just going to be updating or changing whatever the UI says in the game. So let's do billboard GUI dot frame. So in our billboard GUI, we're getting our frame, and we're gonna update our players text labels text. So billboard GUI dot frame dot players dot text equals, so we're getting the text property of the text label players, which this is a text, and then we're going to do 2 dots or 2 periods, which a period is pretty much a continuation, so we can add different types of values to our string value. And then we're going to do the number of people in the list, or the number of objects in the list, and then we can continue that off with whatever the maximum amount of players you want. So we're just going to make that 5, so the maximum players, this will be labeled as players, and then whatever value lists, or how many values are in the list table out of 5. So there's our update UI function. It's pretty simple. So now we're gonna make something to remove the player from the list, so when they leave the game. So local function remove player, or let's just name it remove from list. So this is how we're going to remove the player from the list. We're going to get the player's character, so we can teleport it and really just do whatever we want with it. So we're going to do for I equals 1, and then amount of objects in the list, if list, and then we can pass I. So if list and then whatever number I currently is equivalent to the character's name, then, so if you don't know, the character is the player's name. So if we add a player to the list, if the player in the list has the same name or has a character pretty much, then we're gonna run whatever's in here. So we're just gonna do table dot remove list, and then I. We're removing something from the list table. Our first parameter is the table we want to remove it from, and our second parameter is which object we want to remove from the list. And then we're just going to update the GUI because we just removed a player, so we want to make sure everybody knows that there's less players now. So now we can begin teleporting the player to their new location. So let's create a new function, local function teleport players. So here we're going to be teleporting the player. So if the number of list is greater than 0, so if there's more than 0 players in the list, then we're going to change the billboards frame.status.text to teleporting, because we want people to know that it's teleporting the players that are in the little rating room, I guess. Not sure what to call that. And then let's just do billboard.frame.status.text color3 equals color3.from RGB. So we're changing the text color of the status text, and we are getting a color from an RGB value. Let's just make that a red color. Let's just make that 25500. So it's going to be a solid red color. Then we're going to do local players to teleport equals, so we're making an empty list called players to teleport. Then we can do local teleport time, and then let's keep this 0 by default. This is just how long we're going to wait to teleport. So for I equals 1, and the number of values or objects inside of the list, we're going to do if game dot players find, or let's do find first child, and then we're gonna find the first child that's named whatever value is, or let me just real quick explain tables. So let's say there's a string that says hello, a string that says bye, and a string that says see ya. So this string right here has the value 0, this string here has 1, and this string here has 2. So when I equals 1, we're pretty much getting the list, and we're getting the number 1 value inside of the list, which would be bye, which is from my knowledge from Python. In this, it actually might be different. It might be starting off as 1, but that's pretty much what we're doing. We're just checking, or we're trying to find the first child inside of the player service that has the name of the first object inside of the table, if that makes any sense and if that clears anything up for you. So if we do find that child, we're just going to do a table.insert, which we're going to insert a value to the players to teleport table that we created out up here, so we can store the players that are meant to be teleported to the location. And then game.players, find first child, list, and I. So we're just gonna insert the player that we found. So if the player does not exist, so if we don't find the player that's inside of the list, we're just gonna remove them from the list. So table.remove list and then I. So we're removing that player from the list because, well, they're no longer there, they don't exist, something happened to them, we don't know. So we should have to go down 2 ends because this for I statement needs an end and this if statement needs an end. So if we go down 2 ends, now we can continue. We can do local player chosen equals, start off with 0. So the player chosen, actually let's start this off with the amount of people that are in to teleport. So let's say there's 5 people inside of the waiting room, then this is going to be equal to 5, and we're just going to decrease this until we've teleported every single player that's inside of this table. So teleporting is going to equal true because now we're going to actually start teleporting the actual player to the location. So we're going to do for I equals 1, the amount of people and players to teleport, or actually we can just use our player chosen variable, do. So we're starting off with 1. We don't have to do debugging. So players to teleports, and then I, so whatever number this is, dot player GUI, or actually we can start off, let's just modify their player GUI. So let's do player GUI. We should start off actually by creating the player's GUI before we try and alter it, because we need to actually create a leave button. So insert a GUI, hit the plus, insert a screen GUI. This is gonna be our main GUI. I'm just gonna add a text button, and this button is gonna be called leave. Let's just hit this down here. Just gonna make the text say leave, and we aren't gonna make it look that nice because we are not too focused on the design. So we've got a leave button down here. Just gonna make this not visible. So now we can continue on our gate script. So we named our screen GUI main GUI, and then we're going to be getting our leave button. Let's actually just rename this to leave button because it makes more sense. And then dot leave button dot visible equals false. Let's set that to false because the player's been teleported, so they shouldn't have an option to leave the waiting room since they've already been taken out of it, if that makes sense. So we're going to teleport the player to where we want. So players to teleport I dot character dot humanoid root part dot c frame or coordinate frame equals game dot workspace dot mapdp dot c frame. You can replace this with whatever you named the part that you want the player to teleport. I just named it mapdp. So we're getting the player's character, we're getting their humanoid root part, which is the main part or the root part as it says of the character. We're getting its coordinate frame or its coordinate or its position, any one of those. And then we're getting workspace, and we're going to find our map TP part, and then we're going to get that coordinate frame and put the player to that location. And now we can just do player chosen minus equals 1. Because we want to subtract from that value, so we can keep doing this until everything's finished. So now out of this for loop, we can repeat. We could just add a wait, and then we're just gonna until. So we're going to, let's repeat until there's no more than 0. So if there's less than or equal to, oh, I meant to put list. So if they're less than or equal to, if they're less than or equal to 0 amount of players in the waiting room, then we're just going to change everything back to its original stuff. So we're going to change the billboard.frame.status.text back to ready because it's ready again. And then we're going to do billboard.frame.status.text color 3 equals color 3 from RGB, and let's just give that a green color. So once there's no more players, then we're just going to change this back to ready, and we should just be able to set this back to false teleporting because we've finished teleporting the player that we wanted to teleport. So now let's do what happens when the player touches the gate, which is to put them into the waiting room. So let's just do script.parent.gate.touched connect function. So we're going to be using the touched function, and we're going to pass hit, and we're going to do if hit find first child, or we should probably do hit.parent find first child humanoid. Then, so let's say the player touches this with their leg. The leg's parent is the character, and there's usually a humanoid inside of the character. And if teleporting is false, so here we're checking if it's already teleporting a group of people. Have to do 2 equals if we're checking if a value is equivalent to something. So now we're gonna get local char, or let's keep it char equals hit.parent, because if there is a humanoid, then that means hit.parent should be character. And now we can do local player equals game get service, or I'm going to do get service players get player from character char dot name, or actually we can probably just do this a lot simpler. We can just do find first child. So we're getting a service called players, and we're just gonna find a child that has the name of the player's character, which should hopefully find someone. Now we're gonna do another for loop for I equals 1 number of values or objects in the list. Do if list I, so we're checking if the list I is equal to the character's name. So if the character is already, or the player is already inside of the waiting room, or they're already, yeah, pretty much that. If they're already inside of the waiting room, then we're just gonna make a variable called already exists, and we're gonna set that to true. So the player already exists. We should actually create that variable up here. So local already exists equals false. So it's false by default. Now we're gonna do if already exists, then, and actually we can just do if it equals false. This is pretty much the same thing or of doing if not already exist, but this way is safer, and I sometimes get problems using not, so we're just gonna do it this way. If number of list is less than, then here you input the maximum numbers of players you want in your waiting room. For me it's 5. So if there's less people than the maximum amount of people, then we can allow the player to join the lobby. So table.insert, we're inserting something into our list table, which is going to be the character's name. So this is just the player's name, and we're inserting it into our list. Then we can get the character's primary part, character.primary part, because the character is a model. And then we can get the coordinate frame of the primary part, and we can just set this to spawn part.cframe, which is our waiting room's cframe. It might bug out, so you might want to put the waiting room position a little bit higher, but we'll keep it this way. Then we're just going to do update GUI. So this is going to change our UI. And here we're going to call our leave GUI event, because we're going to be making it so it pretty much removes all of the leaving aspects. Like if the player, I'll have to demonstrate that. So that's that part. Actually, we should leave GUI event fire, no, that's not fire server. We should fire clients, and we should fire player, and we should probably add another parameter for true, because we're going to be using this function twice for 2 different reasons. So we're just going to add this true or false statement just so we can probably clean this up a bit. It's just for a bit of safety. So player dot character removing, or actually we don't have to add this, but if you are going to be teleporting the player somewhere, you should be doing player.character removing connect function character, and then remove from list character. But we aren't going to be doing any server changing, we're just going to be teleporting the player to a different position, so we're not going to be needing that. Now let's set what happens when our leave GUI event is fired. So leave GUI event on server event connect function. So on the event we're going to pass player, and let's name this value, let's say is let's say leave or TP. So if the player is actually leaving the lobby, or the player is being teleported to where they should be going. So if character, or actually inside of this we shouldn't have to, yeah, we should just do player.character. Sorry for that little random jumble of words I just said. So if the player's character exists, then player.character.humanoid root part.anchored equals false, because in case it's ever been anchored or ever gets anchored, we just want to make sure that it's not. Now we can just do task.wait, let's say 0.01, and let's do player. We should probably make the player jump, so player.character.humanoid.jump equals true. So this is gonna force the player to jump. This is gonna be good in case a player gets stuck on a block, or they're probably gonna get flung out from a bug or anything of that sort. Now we can just add another task.wait 0.01, adding another delay. So if the player, or if leave or TP is true, then player.character, and we're gonna move the character, or let's just do, actually it's move to, and then game.workspace dot, we actually have to, so go back to our base plate, let's add a place for the player to be teleported if they leave the lobby. So I'll just make it pretty much in front of the lobby, anchor that. So then I'm just gonna name this part player left. I'm going to make it can collide to false. So let's just do game.workspace.player left, and let's add dot position because we want to move the player to a position and not just to an object. Now we can finish off our script with a while wait loop. So while wait, we don't actually have to make it wait any seconds because we're just going to be doing that in the loop. So timer, we're going to be setting our timer variable at the top. Set this timer variable to however long you want the player to have to wait. I just make this 20 seconds. Actually, I'll keep it 15 seconds. So we're going to have to be waiting 15 seconds every time players get teleported, or as soon as the player joins, or wherever we're going to have a delay for it. So then we're going to do for I equals 1 timer do, and then we're going to subtract 1. So timer is going to be equivalent to timer minus 1. So let's say timer is 15, then timer is going to be 15 minus 1. This is pretty much the same as minus equals, but we're just going to do it this way because why not? And then we're just going to do billboard dot frame dot time dot text equals timer. So you can just change this to like wait and then like a text saying wait, a continuation, then timer, but I'm just gonna keep this as exactly what a number, no extra fancy text. Now we're gonna wait a second, and then we should just have to teleport to players. So this is going to be the end of this script. So that's our main gate teleportation script. Now we can finish off our leave GUI event script. So inside of starter player scripts, let's head over here. We can hit the plus and insert a local script. And in this local script, we can create a variable for our leave GUI event. So local leave GUI event equals game.replicate store.leave event, because we're going to be modifying it. And then since this is a local script, we can just do local player equals game.players.local player. And we can limit the player's zoom or do any magic stuff we want just for a nice effect, but for this video I won't be doing that. So leave GUI event dot on server or on client event connect function. So upon this being fired on the client, we're just gonna do player.player.GUI .main GUI .leave button .visible equals say false. Or actually, let's make this true because this is gonna be the part that summons the button, I guess. So now we can just do player.player.GUI .main.GUI .leave button .mouse button when clicked connect function. So we're getting the leave button in our main GUI, and we're getting when mouse button when clicked happens, or when someone clicks on it with mouse button 1, which is the left mouse button. And we're just gonna do leave GUI event fire server. We don't need to put any parameters in there, and then we can just set the player.player.GUI.main.GUI.leave button .visible to false. Now we're nearly done, but if you test this out, you're gonna realize when the player gets teleported to this zone, they're gonna be teleported somewhere else randomly. So let's prevent that. In starter pack, let's hit the plus and let's insert a local script. We can just name this fix because it's pretty basic, that's all we need. So let's create the same two variables in our other local script, local touch, or actually local leave GUI event equals game.replicate store the leave GUI event, local player equals game.player the local player. We should actually rename this. Let's just name this to leave handler. Leave handler. So now we've got the two same variables as our other script. Now we can just do game.workspace.maptp.touched connect function. So whenever maptp is touched, which will be as soon as the player gets teleported to there, we're just gonna do leave GUI event fire server false. So if we go back to our gate script, here, if the value is true, then we're going to teleport the player to the player left part. But in this script, we're setting it to false, so it won't actually teleport the player here. It's going to just keep the player at their new map. And I just forgot something. We should probably do remove or remote from list. Oh, I spelled that wrong. You might want to rename this to remove from list. Remove from list. See if I accidentally typed that anywhere else. Nope. Let's just do remove from list, and then we can put list, or let's just do player.character, and that should be good. So we can go back to our fix. We can set that as false, and then just in case, we can set the player.main or .player.GUI.main GUI .main or .leave button .visible to false. So this should be everything that we need completed. Let's go ahead and give this a try. So I thought this tutorial was a little bit wonky. I had to kind of save the script. Oh, main GUI is not a valid member. Where is this coming from? Oh, we have a little error. Let's just add a quick delay at the top. I'm just going to do task.wait 0.01. So let's hit plus or the play again. Oh, we're going to have this error multiple times. Wait, let's see here. Player.player.GUI. Let's just head over here. Player GUI, main GUI. Main GUI is not a valid member. I guess we can increase this delay once more. Let's just make this 0.1, I guess. Usually scripts run too fast before anything actually loads into the game. I guess I'm just gonna make this 1 second if it's gonna keep giving me an error, which I do not want. Yep, that should be good. As you can see, we've got our countdown and it's decreasing. So let's see what happens when this hits 0 and nobody's inside of the radius. As you can see, it goes back up. Let's touch this part, and we did get teleported here and kind of fell over, but as you can see, we have a leave button and it says 1 out of 5. Let's hit a leave button, and as you can see, we left, but we didn't actually get teleported here. Probably should just make the player teleport there. So let's head back onto here. Yeah, we might want to make a separate teleport part a little bit up. So let's just chill in our little zone, wait for this timer to go back down, and as soon as it hits 0, boom, we get teleported over here, and we are now in our map. Now we should probably fix our leave button really fast. Let's head to our gate script and let's head down here. So instead of move to, let's just do player.character dot humanoid root part dot cframe equals, and then I'm just gonna get rid of these brackets. So now we can just go ahead and test that, and this should be fixed. Oh, this error is coming back. Let's see if I can just do this without having to deal with that. Let's hit the leave button now. So you might want to do a wait for child. Wait for child just waits for this object to be present in the player. So I'm just gonna add a wait for child right there. Might make this safer, and I should probably just be able to decrease this delay. So this should be the final revision of the script. So if we head over here, if I join this and I hit leave, oh, it did not teleport me. I'm just face flat on the ground. Make sure I go here, leave. Oh, it just causes me to jump. Guess we could just go back to our leave script. If leave TP is on, we should probably check our leave handler real quick. So when this is touched, let's actually, oh, we should probably put true there. Now we can go ahead and check this out. Sorry, I didn't mean to forget to quite a simple mistake. Let's hit leave. Oh, unable to assign property cframe coordinate expected, got vector 3. Oh, I accidentally kept that as position. Sorry for these little errors. So that should be it. There shouldn't be any more problems as I don't see any. But yeah, got a new avatar. So if I hit leave, yep, teleports me over here to this part, and it removes me from the player count. So yeah, oh, did I just join it too late? On right on time. So yeah, you can add a little transition effect from one of my videos if you would like for the player to be teleported here. Sorry this video is so long. I'm sorry if there was like slow and weird explaining. I did save this script because it was quite a bit to remember, and I did forget some of the teleport players function, but yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed and hopefully this helped you. And yeah, see ya.